Hi there, LinkedIn family. Jonathan here from Some Talented People, and we're on post 4 of the authority gap. And yeah, this is refreshingly funny. So I'm literally at chapter 2, 38 pages into the book, and what I've given you from the first chapter is just a sliver. But this chapter is called "The View from the Other Side" because I'm sure that many men feel the unjustifiable uh, ascension of women to be an attack upon themselves, and they'll disregard these complaints. So this is called "A View from the Other Side." If a woman thinks she's being taken less seriously than a male rival, it's hard for her to prove that she's the victim of discrimination. Women are often accused of citing sexism to disguise their own inadequacy. But there's one very persuasive way of testing the hypothesis that women are unjustifiably respected less, thought to be less competent and expert than men. Talk to people who've lived as both, because they're exactly the same person with the same ability, experience, and personality. And the only thing that's changed is their gender. So they're uniquely able to identify the effect of gender in their lives. It's a way of correcting for all the other variables and isolating the one that matters. So a couple of stories about this. When Ben Bars was a student at MIT, then living as a woman, his math professor set the class a demanding test with 5 questions. The last one was particularly hard, but Bars still managed to solve it. The following day, the professor handed back the papers and announced that no one had succeeded in answering the 5th question. Bars picked up the story. I went to the professor and I said, "I solved it." He looked at me and he had a look of disdain in his eyes. And he said, "You must have had your boyfriend solve it." I didn't know what to say. He was in essence accusing me of cheating. I was incensed by that. For the next decade, for the next few decades of his career as an academic research scientist before he transitioned, Bars found himself at disadvantage. Much later, he wrote, I am still disappointed about the prestigious fellowship competition I later lost to a male contemporary when I was a PhD student, even though the Harvard dean who'd read both applications assured me that my application was much stronger. I had published 6 high-impact papers, whereas my male competitor had only published 1. Then, as a middle-aged Stanford professor of neuroscience, he transitioned and became known as Ben Bars. He was astonished by the difference it made to his life. I've had the thought a million times, he wrote, am I being taken more seriously? At one seminar, a faculty member who didn't know his history was heard to say, Ben Bars gave a great seminar today, but that his work is so much better than his sister's. Bars concluded, by far the main difference that I've noticed is that people who don't know I'm transgendered treat me with much more respect. I can even complete a whole sentence without being interrupted by a man. Because Bars, who developed baldness and grew a beard, began being treated as one of the guys, he started to hear male colleagues say what they really thought about women. Things they would never have said to him before he transitioned because they revealed the men's sexist attitude. A neurosurgeon at Stanford told me he'd never met a female neurosurgeon who was remotely as good as a man. Another told me he thinks women are like small children. By coincidence, another middle-aged science professor at the same university was transitioning at the same time from male to female, to be known as Joan Roughgarden. It was very clear when I got the job at Stanford that it was like being on a conveyor belt, Roughgarden said, of her time living as a man. The career track is set up for young men. You're assumed to be competent unless revealed otherwise. You can speak and people will pause and listen. You can enunciate in distinctive terms and get away with it. You are taken as a player. You can assert, you have authority, you have the frame to frame the issues. But when he started to live as a woman, all that began to change. Her pay, which had been above average for tenured professors, gradually slipped down to the bottom 10%. She lost her seat on the prestigious university Senate committee. She found it hard to win grant foundation for her studies, funding for her studies. She was attacked personally, something that had never happened to her when she was living as a man. Of course, she might claim Roughgarden's experience could be put down to transgender discrimination rather than sexism, and it's certainly true that trans women often find it harder to pass than trans men do and suffer discrimination as a result. But at the same time, Biles was being treated much better, even by those who knew he was trans. So that there puts to bed any argument about they're complaining about nothing, women have too much say, gender equality has gone too far, feminazis, all this crap that is. And there's in one of my last posts on this book, I'll talk about some of the language and behaviors of incredibly young boy children. But, you know, those couple of pages should tell you everything you need to know about the truth of this authority gap, because from truth you can decide to be. Look, all you've got to do is just stop and think. Stop and think. Would I think this if it was the other way round? Would I express this opinion? Would I have this belief if it was a man, not a woman? And that's a great place to start. So I shall dig into some more chapters and come back with more juicy excerpts from this fabulous book, The Authority Gap. Buy it today. And I will see you tomorrow. Have fun, be safe, stay well. Cheers.